There are so many reasons why I got into teaching.
One of the best things is the light bulb moment.
When you see a pupil suddenly understand something, that's really, really special.
Every child is so full of potential, and the thing that makes me proudest to be a teacher is seeing them realise what they are capable of.
I don't think any other job can give you the same satisfaction.
That's why I chose to teach.
You could get £26,000 tax-free to train. Search Apply to Teach. Selected subjects only, subject to eligibility.
Gamertag Radio presents E3 2017 coverage. Hosts Danny Pena, Paris Lilly, and Peter Toledo are direct from the convention center floor.
Here we go.
Okay. So first you're going to see a quick B-roll of the game, and afterwards you're going to see then we'll just play the game, and you'll see what it's currently like. ELEX open world RPG, very much like Fallout or Skyrim, basically. We started around 3 years ago, and we've been making fantasy role-playing games for the last 20 years. And so we thought, okay, now it's time for a change. And so, we didn't want to go sci-fi immediately all the way, and so we found a new setting, what we call a science fantasy setting. So what we're basically trying to do is put both science fiction and fantasy into one big game world. The background story is meteor crashes onto planet, wipes out almost everything, and with the meteor, a substance called ELEX comes to the planet. And then with ELEX suddenly everything changes, because you can use it to power machines, you can use it as fuel, for example here for your jetpack, because you've got a jetpack to go through the world, or you can consume it, and if you consume it then you develop great magical powers, but the downside is that you lose all your emotions. So that's a central thing to a game. And so basically very dangerous world, and everybody's after the ELEX. Here you can see already the guys dressed like a fantasy warrior basically, and here you see that the backdrop of the post-apocalyptic world here. We've got one big game world, so once we throw you in, you won't see any loading screen whatsoever. The world is huge, so every point on the horizon that you can see, you can actually really go there. And with the jetpack that you just saw, you can literally go to any point in the game world. There's a lot of loot hidden on different places, and development-wise, that's quite a challenge, because usually we had a lot of areas where you don't need to put so much detail in. But now with the jetpack, you can literally go anywhere, and so we need to put the whole world must be filled with interesting stuff, and the world is huge. It's a full-blown role-playing game, so everything you'd expect from a role-playing game, it's in there. So whether it's crafting, whether we have various skill trees, you can enchant your weapons, you can just level up, you can learn stuff at different teachers in the world. So everything you'd expect from a full role-playing game is there. We also got a simulated game world. That means we don't rely on cutscenes or scripting that much, but everything is driven by AI. And for example, if you fight against this troll here, you could either fight him, but if you're just too weak, because our monsters don't scale or level with the hero, so they are what they are. They have the same or their respective strength in the world. You could, for example, lure this guy into the next town where there's a lot of NPCs, and then and the NPCs will do the job for you. But it might not be always the best idea to do that, because 90% of all our NPCs can be killed. Also the story NPCs, and so a lot of story NPCs will be killed, and then some story or some quests will change. You won't be able to do some of the quests, but the story will adapt to that. And in the end, you will also have then multiple endings based on who was killed, what decisions you made, all of that. We want to keep it very, very dynamic, and because at the core of our design principle basically is freedom. So we just want the player give total freedom to go anywhere he wants, to just use any weapon that he wants. We've got a very wide selection of weapons, as our setting basically of science fiction and fantasy and post-apocalyptic allows us to have shotguns, flamethrowers, grenade launchers, swords, big hammers, plasma rifles, basically any weapon that you can think of, we've got it there. And so it's totally up to the player, whichever style he prefers, he can have it in our game. There's also a lot of story in here, so we have around 300,000 words of spoken dialogue. Everything is voiced, so you're looking at around 80 hours of gameplay in total. Here we are now. So before, everything was the Berserkers. That's one of the factions. The Berserkers are the ones, they're more the fantasy faction. They believe that magic and going back to nature will save the planet. And here you have the Outlaws. They're more like a Mad Max faction, basically. They live in the desert, and they collect scrap. They build everything out of scrap. And there's a third faction. They're called the Clerics. We'll see them later on. And the Clerics believe that technology, they worship technology, and technology will save the world. And the Outlaws, they don't believe in anything. They just do drugs, have a good time, and so that's what they do basically. They live in the desert. It's a very dangerous place, so there's a lot of mines you can't around on the floor, so you can't just go in anywhere and expect to just survive. So it's the hard part. As you can see here now, there's mines here. You can also have companions in the game, so there's up to 7 companions that you can also build your own headquarter basically, and those companions will just assemble there, and you can always pick one to go on quests with you. And all these companions also, we wanted to have a real character, so whatever you do in the game, they will have an opinion on it, and either they will like what you do or they don't like what you do. If they really, really, really like what you do, there might be also romances in the game. If they don't like what you do, then they leave your party as well. So we just want to have, again, that dynamic, that freedom in there. There's a full role-playing game in here. Here you see, for example, all the stats that you have, so classic strength, constitution, all of that is there. There's different skill trees there, and when you level up, you get attribute points for strength, and you also get learning points, and the learning points can be used at teachers. But for a teacher to talk to you, you will have to make some quests for him. You will have to convince him that you're worth basically being taught, and through that we can blend the narrative and the game mechanics together. So we just want to have it that everything is in the game, so not just here's the mechanics and here's the narrative, but the player should really feel like he's in the game world. That's also the reason why we don't have any loading screens whatsoever, so you can go anywhere. That's why also, for example, the inventory is on his hand, or is it like a projection on his hand, so it's in the game world. We don't want the player, or remind the player that it's just playing a game, so we try to take everything out that does that basically. So maybe we can now switch to the game. Then you.
Well, I have a quick question while he's fixing this. So, are there going to be any differences between like the consoles and the PC version or anything like that? And also, now with the PlayStation 4 Pro and Xbox One X, is it going to be enhanced too or no? For the first question, the PC version and the console version, they will be pretty much the same. Okay. So they'll play and look the same. And also we've got a controller controls on PC as well. So that's why it's the full game. And for the new console generation, yes, we will have some enhancements, but most likely shortly after the release. We're quite a small team of 28 people, and so we're focusing on finishing the game first before we go into the small little
gimmick stuff. Yeah, here we are about 20 minutes after the game starts. So, and here's Duras. That's the first character you're gonna meet, and he will lead you into the next town because currently you're just equipped with more or less like a rusty pipe, and then he will lead you to the first town where you're safe, where you can buy your equipment, where you can level up, and yeah, you can see one of the many dialogues in the game. So it's very much story driven as well, but you also have the freedom to just fight everything that you want. Yeah. Here you'll see that you can pick up a lot of stuff, so there's also a lot of crafting then in the game, so a lot of plants that you can make potions from, also a lot of recipes. You can make your own drugs if you're an outlaw, you can just make your own weapons if you're a cleric, all that kind of stuff. So really a traditional RPG in a true sense. That's also what we focused on single player experience, because we just wanted to have everything that a good single player role-playing game needs. We also think, well, at least as far as we know, we have the largest connected quest system to date. So it's all non-linear quest system. So a lot of decisions that you make will have an impact in a completely different part of the world. Not always on a big scale, but all these small things. If you piss somebody off, that will trigger other dialogues at other characters. If you kill somebody, that of course will have an impact on your whole story and everything. And that's why we don't rely on cutscenes so much, because we just dynamically build everything based on your action, because again, freedom is at the core of it. Here you will have the decision whether you just want to take the easy path or the hard path. But if you go the hard path, there's going to be some cleric's weapon that you're going to find, they're the berserkers. They hate technology, so these weapons are not allowed in the town that you're currently going to, and whether you have them or you don't have will trigger completely different quests in that area. So it's not just one quest after another, but a lot of quests that are available to you, and they all change a little bit depending on your previous actions. Here you also just saw cold decreased and cold increased. We don't have good and evil system, but we have more emotional cold system. So depending on your actions, your coldness or emotional coldness will rise or go down, and that will then also open up new dialogue possibilities, and in the end also different endings of the game.
So that also affect the conversation with other people too, right?
Right. Because the background story is there's the bad guys. That's the fourth faction. They're called the Alps, and they want all the ELEX in the world because they don't care about emotions. So what they do is they build all these converters, just huge buildings where they throw all living things like animals and people into it to squeeze the ELEX out of them. And so they're the bad guys. And the player character, he's one of them in the beginning, but then he's shut down and he's just abandoned by his own people, and so he has to fight his way back basically, and on that path or on that journey he can decide what kind of person he wants to be in the future, whether he still wants to be that cold emotionless person, or if he wants to become one of the free people, an emotional person. But also emotional is not always good. It's like anger and fear, they're also emotions, and logic is not always the worst thing, but the story plays a lot with what it means to be human. Is it your emotions that make you human, or is it our logical thinking that puts us above animals? So there's a lot of playing around with that, but of course in the end it's a role-playing game, so you save the world. Yeah, here you fight these monsters here. We have, because that's just a clumsy rod boar, a lot of difficulty settings. So if people just come for the story, they will find the combat is much easier. If somebody comes for Dark Souls experience, then he'll also be able to find it in here. So our combat system is quite complex. So you have quick attacks, heavy attacks. You can block, you can parry. You can just evade. You have special attacks because if you build up your combo meter, you get special attacks. You always have to watch your stamina as well. So it's not just button mashing, but it's really a full-fledged combat system in there. Yeah, maybe we'll go to the clerics just so you can see the variety we have in the game. Like I said before, the clerics, they're more the science fiction faction. They don't consume ELEX at all. They think that's a sin, but they use it for machines. They use it to power everything they have. But as you can see, it's vastly different from just the fantasy environment that you saw before. But it's all in one game world. So when we run out now of this city here, we could just run for another half hour and then be again in the Berserker region, where it's a full fantasy game basically. Here the clerics, they're very religious. They can also, and if you don't believe what they believe, they will brainwash you into it. But you can also then learn this ability, for example, and that you can use that in dialogues as well. And suddenly you can just, very much like these are not the droids you're looking for kind of stuff. So you have a lot of specific skills or faction skills that you can then use throughout the game. At some point you will have to join one of these factions, but whether you join it in hour 2 of the game or in hour 20 or 30 of the game, that's completely up to you. So you can really play quests for every faction first, so you get a taste of what they're like, and then finally make your decision. At some point you have to, because that's the main quest, but everything else is completely open and freedom. Here you can see all these fighting machines that they have. So it's a completely different set of weapons, of skills, and also of just language. So each faction also uses a slightly different language to give it the right taste. Yeah. For example, here over that hill over there, there's the desert that we'll go into. Over there, there's the icy mountains where the Alps are. And as I said before, every point on the horizon that you can see, you can really actually go there. And that's important, because we don't believe in invisible walls or anything. So, and if you then can look at the outlaw city, then you again see that it's also very different. So some say there's even more close to 3 games in the same game. Because it's just, they build everything out of scrap. Also, if you like Fallout, for example, then that's the faction that you'll want, because also they craft a lot. So they even can craft their ammo and everything. So that's very much the collect stuff and put it back together thing. They're the anarchist faction. Basically, they don't believe in anything but freedom or personal freedom. Here you'll run into Rat, and he will ask you for money, and whether you now give money now will have an effect on some other quests later again. So as I said, every choice that you make with every line that you pick will have more or less an effect at some other point in the game. So it's important that you don't just click. That's next sentence, but you really read the thing. And because we've got it all voiced, it's easy to follow. But every decision basically counts in the game. Here, Rat will remember that, and through that, or that mechanism will have a lot of, or a sequence of effects, basically, then later in the game. Is there anything that I missed?
I don't think so, no. So when is this coming out this year?
Yeah. So currently we're content complete, and so what's left is bug fixing, polishing, that kind of stuff. And the release date is the 17th of October of this year. for PC, Xbox, and PlayStation 4.
I noticed you mentioned a lot, like other games like Fallout. I forgot you mentioned a couple other ones, but Skyrim and so on. So, how important was it to, like, I know you guys probably got inspired because of those games. How important was it to make something like that, but even unique and better?
Well, very important, but we've also made that kind of the game for the last 20 years. So we did the Gothic series and the Risen series before, and so we were one of the first to make an open world 3D RPG back in 2001, basically. So it's we took a lot of inspiration from our own games, but then of course all the other really good games of the last 10 years also had an influence, but also then books like Dune, because the spice works similar to ELEX here, and also Equilibrium, the movie with all the emotion stuff. So we had a lot of inspirations and tried to put together a new and unique setting for us. Plus, as I said in the beginning, we've been making fantasy role-playing games for the last 20 years, and when we said, okay, we want to do something different, then we should go sci-fi, right? But then we didn't want to alienate our established fan base, so especially in Germany and Europe, we have a large following. And so we said, okay, let's take our players on the same journey that we have. So you start out more in a fantasy environment, then you go through this Mad Max style environment until you get to the whole sci-fi stuff. So we want the player to have the same journey as we have here.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
This episode of Gamertag Radio is sponsored by Western Digital. With WD, you're now able to get solid-state drives and hard drives to fit your unique needs. When you add the superior performance of a WD solid-state drive to your PC, you'll get blazing read speed so you can boost your system quickly or load games and other applications in a snap. Combined with a reliable WD hard drive, you get up to 6 terabytes of storage to keep your games library, direct feed videos, and me, I'm a fan of podcasts, you could do this too, and more, all in a single place. And for limited time, Gamertag listeners, take advantage of this. Limited time, you can get 20% off a WD solid state drive with coupon code WDGTR. Remember, that's WDGTR. Find out more at WDC.com/GTR. One thing I noticed too, our Discord channel community members, they've been going crazy with this code. So take advantage of this. This is a limited time offer. You know, we have, Paris and P that also been testing this out now for a while. And now that especially they've been using more like capturing for like gaming stuff and also editing videos and everything. This is perfect for you guys, and there's a lot of the gamers that want to start doing that too for YouTube and Facebook and so on.
No, absolutely. And again, take advantage of this code WDGTR. It is 20% off solid state hard drives. And if you're a hardcore gamer, if you're looking to build a new PC, you're going to want an SSD drive for faster read speeds, faster loading times in your games, etc. So take advantage. WDC.com/GTR. Use our code WDGTR for 20% off.